Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, welcome to the December Trending Topics webinar, Youth Engagement Through Farm to School. We will give people a few more minutes to hop on and then we'll start the webinar. For those of you who are just joining us, welcome. We'll be starting in just a few moments, just waiting a few more minutes for a couple of stragglers to hop on. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for December Trending Topics webinar, Youth Engagement Through Farm to School. Before we get started, a few housekeeping reminders. This webinar will be recorded and archived for future viewing in the National Farm to School Network resource database. You will also receive a link to access the recording in a follow-up email and links to the resources shared by our speakers today. All attendees are in listen-only mode. As a question arises, please feel free to enter those into the question box on your control panel. We will have plenty of time for questions and answers from our panelists at the end of the session. My name is Hannah McCandless, the Network and Partnerships Fellow with the National Farm to School Network, and I will be facilitating this webinar today. NFSN's Trending Topics webinars are monthly webinars open to the public aimed at highlighting trends, best practices, and stories of farm to school and ECE success from our partners across the country. Today, I'll get started by providing a very brief background on the National Farm to School Network for those of you joining us for the first time, share some information about upcoming National Farm to School events, and then we'll get into the topic of the day. You can see from this visual that we truly are built on a network model, a network of organizations and individuals across the country working toward advancing farm to school and ECE. The National Farm to School Network is an information, advocacy, and networking hub for communities working to bring local food sourcing, school gardens, and food and agriculture education into schools and early care and education settings. We do this by connecting people to resources, people to people, and people to policy. Upcoming events to put on the calendar include our next two Trending Topics webinars. On January 4th, 2018 is SNAP Ed dollars used for farm to school, and on February 1st, food waste. The registration link for January's webinar can be found in your chat box. Also coming up on April 25th, 2018 is the National Farm to Cafeteria Conference, which will be hosted in Cincinnati, Ohio. Come learn, network, and share with us this April. Another recent development at NFSN is our updated State Farm-to-School Legislative Report, with updates on farm-to-school legislation across the country. It can be found on the NFSN website, and there will also be a link for it put in the chat box. Please feel free to connect with us. You can find us and more information about us on our website, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And now we'll get started with today's webinar, Youth Engagement Through Farm to School. Teens are a very different and fun group of students to do farm to school work with, and engaging young adults in this work can sometimes be challenging. We hope this presentation from 3 professionals who work with middle and high school age students will help your organization engage more young people in farm to school. Here we have our 3 wonderful presenters for today. First, we'll hear from Mary Beth Luke Sorrells, who currently serves as Executive Director of Youth Empowered Solutions, a nationally focused nonprofit whose mission is to empower youth to work in partnerships with adults to create community change. She brings more than 20 years of nonprofit leadership and capacity building experience to her role. Specifically, her skills in training and facilitation, project management, creating and applying an outcomes framework, and fundraising make her a valuable partner in many effects. Kate Casale currently works as a youth development specialist at the Alameda County Office of Education. She holds a Bachelor in Cultural Anthropology from Brown University and a Master of Science in International Agricultural Development from UC Davis. She has been working in the fields of youth development and food systems for over a decade. From working with urban community farms in Argentina and building a community food security project with homeless families and youth, to coordinating youth action research projects around Alameda County and working with communities to reverse the negative effects of systemic oppression on health and wellness. Lastly, we have Marissa Watson. She is the School Food Programs Coordinator for Vermont Feed, a project of Northeast Organic Farming Association and Shelburne Farms. Her background is working as an associate producer for National Geographic Television and as a farm manager for 5 years, which prepared her for the logistics and creative profession of farm to school. I would like to go ahead and hand it off to Mary Beth. If you'd like to go ahead and start us off.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Beth Luke Sorrell, and I am actually on the call from North Carolina. YES is a national nonprofit with offices across North Carolina, and we are actually celebrating our 10th year in 2018, so it's a really exciting milestone for us. The youth empowerment model, which I'm going to be talking about, is almost 20 years old, and just to give you a little background about the organization, we kicked off in 2008 as a spinoff from a tobacco-focused model called the Youth Empowerment Model, where in North Carolina we use tobacco settlement money and we're able to have a policy change for smoke-free schools that has now been expanded to restaurants and public spaces and various locations. And at the conclusion of that successful policy shift, a group of founding staff and board members decided that the empowerment model actually could be applied to many different issues or concerns that youth and adults wanted to aim to change and improve. And so YES was born in 2008, and in the 10 years that it has been officially a nonprofit, has actually changed policies that impact the health of over 21 million people. So I'm really excited to share a little bit about our model and hopefully answer some questions or help with some of the struggles and challenges that you have when sometimes engaging youth. So if we can click to the first slide, that would be great. Thank you. So essentially, YES's premise is that a quarter of the population is being ignored instead of tapped for their potential to contribute to improving things. And our nation is suffering economically, socially, and civilly as a result. And what we found is that empowering young people to participate in effective youth-adult partnerships can be replicated, and it's a proven strategy for changing community problems. You can see from this photo that YES engages a very diverse group of youth. Our commitment from the beginning has been that 75% or more of the youth that we hire and train are youth of color from a rural community and or a low wealth community. And so that's really intentional because we want the solutions to be impacting some of the most marginalized community members that we have. Essentially, our work happens at the local level and the statewide level in North Carolina, and then we work with other states to try and replicate the success that we've had and policy change success we've had in our state. And it's a really exciting 10 years, and I think you know, that the model has shown how adaptable it is. We did start in tobacco and get very focused on health, but since then have been expanding to more general youth empowerment. And our latest new arena is environmental justice, trying to make the connections and assist environmental justice organizations in applying a youth empowerment lens to achieve a big policy win. So next. We like to try and explain exactly what we mean by youth empowerment by dividing traditional youth engagement or youth leadership development into 3 buckets. And those are positive youth development, youth engagement, and youth empowerment. So if we'll click to the next slide, I'll go in depth on positive youth development. And so what we find is that that often when adults try and think about youth and how to connect with them, they design programming that young people can be active participants in or recipients of the programs and services. They're generally start and stop. They're not becoming part of an integral part of a organization or a policy effort. They determine the adults determine the needs of youth and align them with the programs and services, and then the youth are learning new skills and knowledge, and the outcomes of those types of efforts focus on an individual's development. Next. Youth engagement is when youth are integrated into adult-centric spaces. So programs have a focus on the youth and ways they are integrated into programs and projects. So they might invite youth to a meeting, host focus group that involves youth, or engage youth to conduct surveys or photo voice projects. And the youth continue, they learn new skills, knowledge, and sometimes some critical awareness around an issue. And the outcomes generally focus on the number of youth engaged and the programs or projects that get created. And the difference with youth empowerment is that these spaces are intentionally created within adult-centric spaces to engage youth. So the youth are decision makers and leaders within programs or organizations or policy campaigns. They're integrated into multiple aspects of organizations, and they're paid staff. And I just want to repeat that one more time, because often this is the piece that seems to be missing from a lot of other programs, is that our youth are staff, and they are paid, and they are engaged long-term in our work, in many aspects of our work. Youth learn skills, they gain critical awareness, and they engage in opportunities. And I think this is sort of the other place where our youth empowerment strategy seems to be somewhat unique, in that we don't just want to increase skills or help people understand what the problem is. We also want to give them opportunities to present their ideas for solutions and to try and change the minds of some decision makers. And so creating those opportunities is a core element of the youth empowerment model. And finally, for youth empowerment, the outcomes focus of this work is on policy, system, or environmental changes. And so what we're looking or aiming for to understand if youth have actually been empowered is a change in some system or environment that shows their actions have really been taken to a higher level. Next. So essentially, if you look at this slide, you can see that In positive youth development, youth are surveyed to determine their needs, interests, and opportunities, and adults match youth programs or design programs. In youth engagement, youth work with adults to create a survey to learn about needs, interests, and opportunities of their peers. They conduct surveys, compile data, and share results through a photo voice project. And with youth empowerment, youth are paid positions within an organization. They do create and survey their peers, compile data. They design the campaigns, the advocacy efforts based on all of that feedback, and they work in partnership with adults to build action plans and lead those advocacy efforts to change policies, systems, or environments. And so, as we were talking in the introduction, when we actually take our youth to other states to try and replicate that policy success, they're really confident presenting to their peers about what it's going to take to advocate for that change, because they have been in that situation and they've been successful. So they speak from a place of confidence, and their strategies and solutions and responses to the questions are with a depth of knowledge that I think is unusual. Okay, next. This is the YES Youth Empowerment Model that was developed in the early 2000s, but was officially created in 2011. And it has 3 elements: skill development, critical awareness, and opportunities, which I know we've been talking about. But if you'll just notice, the boomerang instead of a triangle image that we're trying to convey is really that you're moving across each of these sets of activities and efforts continuously throughout an effort or initiative. And without any one of these 3 prongs, often youth do not engage in a meaningful level, and it's not the transformational experience that we're hoping for youth, because there's nothing significant that changed that they can point to that and understand that they contributed to. So these 3 prongs are really important aspects of working to empower youth. Next. So here's how it works. We hire high school students. Currently, we have 12 high school students on staff. They learn how to identify and research problems. They develop the solutions, and then they gather community support by giving presentations and engaging in relationships with decision makers and community leaders. Next. They engage those stakeholders in a meaningful way. They often work with the media, writing letters to the editor or being filmed, serving on panels at conferences, and that's how they change local and statewide policies. Next. We wanted to point out some of the common mistakes that we see folks make that don't yield the type of partnership that they're looking for with youth. These questions, if you can walk through them and really get clear about where you stand, can help you avoid some of the common pitfalls. How do you describe the typical young person, and what do we know about them? You know, often people have negative ideas about youth. When we present in different places, the first question we get asked is, where did you find these youth? And we don't think, we obviously think that our youth staff are special, but it's actually the model and the opportunities to step into leadership that bring out the characteristics that I think people find so extraordinary. And so we think that many young people have the potential to connect to this innate sense of justice that young people and youth that are high school age have, and find their way to contribute. The other questions are, what young people are we attempting to recruit to our work? You know, oftentimes the staff that we hire are not necessarily who anybody would think would be standout or really successful at advocacy or policy change work. You know, sometimes they are not the athletic stars or highest grade point average students. They are, you know, some of the quieter in the background students who really have a passion for contributing to community change. How do we ask or expect youth and adults to prepare for working together? This is not something that you can pull together without some intention and some thought and some time to prepare. And then the final question we think can help you avoid making mistakes is, what are our expectations of youth being involved in our work? To just be really clear about what it is we're hoping that they can contribute to some effort. And the next slide. These are some more questions that we find it really helpful if you can try and have some answers to set yourself up to being successful working with youth long term. To simply ask, what will be the role of youth in your work? What do you hope to achieve by including youth? Why would applying a youth empowerment strategy enable you to be more successful? Why are you interested in thoughts, ideas, input, and leadership of youth? What is it specifically that appeals to you that you think is going to be beneficial to your organization or your policy change effort? What are some ways you might envision the way you or your organization operates, or the direction of the work changing once youth are involved? This one is really important to understand, because I think often adults have great intentions of making space for youth, but then youth come up with very different ideas about what solutions are going to make the most sense. And so you just have to be clear on the front end that the work is going to change if you want to apply this strategy. Can your organization or group move meetings to afternoon, evenings, or weekends for when youth are out of school, or think about lunch opportunities and meet at the schools? This is a critical barrier that you just want to have thought through before you get started. And then the final question, is your leadership open to the idea of youth in leadership positions? Is this a supportive environment to shift and share power? And that is ultimately the barrier for youth to be empowered, is that adults can get in the way and don't understand what it means to share power when you're working on policy change. And next. So these are three sort of categories where you can figure out by answering these questions, are you really ready? These are critical and where we see a lot of people trip when they're getting started. So we want to make sure we share this with folks on the webinar. Getting executive buy-in is the first step. You want to make sure that the leadership is really behind this, because it is work, it does require staff time, and you have to be intentional about it. Gauging readiness. Thinking about the accessibility and location and the hours that youth can be involved, and then asking for feedback from the youth that maybe have some level of awareness about your organization. What's the perception? Are youth actually thinking that the doors are open for their participation, or do you have some work to do to not be known just as an adult-centric space? And then finally, preparing for youth. So identifying the roles, writing out your job descriptions, and really thinking through the leadership level opportunities for youth before you actually kick off and try and hire staff. And next. You know, one of the things that we were so excited about is the potential of understanding more about your work, and if there is opportunity for youth empowered strategies to transform the way that your farm to school networks are operating and the kinds of policy success they're able to have at the school or community level. So yes, actually does adult leader trainings. That's usually where we start, where we try and prepare adults to be successful. We give them lots of templates and tools and information, and really help shift their mindset to what this opportunity really means. We then provide youth leader training. So again, our youth, our paid staff who have a lot of experience and success at policy change, they provide training to other youth all across the country. And then finally, we do consulting and technical assistance. So we want to make sure that as you come to the place of implementing a policy change or moving forward with your project, that if you have questions or you know, there's any rub in what you're trying to accomplish, that you have people that can help support your work. And so that's our concluding slide, and I can transition to someone else.
Yes, thank you so much, Mary Beth. Next up, we'll have Kate present, but I'd also like to remind everyone, if you have any questions as they arise, please feel free to put them in the questions box or, write them down, keep them for later. Kate, whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share about my work here at Alameda County Office of Education and Youth in Alameda County. For those who don't know, Alameda County is in the East Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area and encompasses about 14 school districts, including Oakland Unified and Hayward. Mary Beth, I just want to say thank you for providing such a great foundation and guiding framework for working with youth. I think clearly whoever put the slides, the presenters together, made a good selection, having you go first. So my role as a youth development specialist at the County Office of Education is really, I get to work on a number of special projects related to elevating youth voice and youth action and providing opportunities for true youth empowerment and leadership. Over the past 5 or 7 years, that work has been primarily rooted in wellness and health and nutrition education and food systems advocacy. Next, please. My Project EAT is the program that I work directly for with the county, and it's a part of the larger Department to Pathways of College and Career. Project EAT used to be involved in direct nutrition education, garden-based nutrition education. We were working in over 40 schools in Alameda County, providing direct nutrition education to students. And as funding has shifted and also the strategy for the county office, we've moved more into capacity building and training and technical assistance. One of our really main goals is to understand wellness as a fairness issue and also as an equity and education issue. If our students are not well, they are not going to perform well and not have a good experience at school. And so we really look to engage students with that framework. I'm going to share a little bit today about 2 successful programs that we have run over the past decade that have worked to engage high school students in nutrition education and food systems advocacy. Okay, next. Great. So one of our flagship programs here is called our Garden Mentor program. It's a capacity building model for school districts where high schools hire a cadre of interns to lead garden-based health lessons for elementary school children. So, oh, I lost the slides. Okay, so these students are trained. It's a year-long internship that they're paid to participate in, and they spend time learning basic garden and nutrition content. Then they learn a series of 8 simple lessons that they then go out to elementary schools and teach. So the students are learning a variety of skills, both content-based around food and health and nutrition, but also around facilitation and group management, and then additional soft skills related to applying for and attaining for what a lot of them, it's their first job. These students are sent out to the schools in teams, and they work primarily with the after-school programs, although in some schools they have these internships embedded in their curriculum, and so students are going out to these schools during the school day. Next. Unfortunately, our videos are not working, so I'm going to read a couple quotes. I think it's really important to hear from youth in their own voice about their experience, and I always take a little issue with adults talking about youth engagement and not any youth talking about youth engagement. And I'm sorry that the videos didn't transfer so well to the but so I'll just read a couple quotes from these students who participated in the Garden Mentor program. One is that the young woman talks about, we're teaching the next generation and our lessons are being passed down and around and through our families. It's great when I see students sharing with their parents. And then another student talks about how he's helping to spread knowledge and he's a leader for change. Next. So some of the data results from these programs show that there's a dramatic increase in self-efficacy and knowledge around healthy choices. So students know what to choose and are making those choices. Similarly, they have a positive view of the program and the role they can play in nutrition education. They really see the results of these younger elementary students getting so excited when they show up, once a week in the spring to come help them garden and teach them. And in this picture, you see them leading a simple yoga lesson. Next. These are just a couple more quotes. One student says how getting the opportunity to try new foods that I wouldn't really see or eat on a daily basis is something that really stuck out for her in the program, and that these lessons during our training have helped me learn the different things I must balance or avoid to stay in top shape as I grow up. Another student talks about how a meaningful moment is working with the kids and talking to them and interacting with them. That we talk about different things they eat and stories about the unhealthy things that they eat. Next. Okay, so shifting gears to one of our other programs that we run is called YPAR, which stands for Youth Participatory Action Research. And this is very similar to what Mary Beth was outlining, where students are hired to identify an issue in their community that they feel they want to learn more about and affect change on. And it's really aimed at creating food and physical activity policies, systems, and environmental changes in their communities. Again, this is a paid internship program, and there's a strong connection to career pathways. For many schools, this is embedded in a capstone course for some seniors where they have to engage in independent and/or group research. And there's a large strand of it that involves career exploration, one of which we've piloted this year, which is around social service careers. So students spend a few months learning about social movements and social services here in Alameda County, and then they kind of dive into the actual data that we have here in Alameda County, and they select something that they want to research and change. This isn't always nutrition and food focused, but a lot of times it is. Next, please. So again, we have another video that didn't load, but I'll just read a couple quotes. This young woman, Carol, who has worked with Alameda County for 3 years now, she says, "I'm actually doing something productive that I could make a change with. I learned that knowledge is powerful. We made actions that now are a part of our school community." And another student says how he learned how to interact with others and get people involved. Next. So the data for this program shows that students increase in seeing the value of research and soft skills for their future, and that they have a positive view of themselves as change makers and connection to larger social movements. So this really is about tapping into their creativity and their innate interest in justice and wanting to really allow them to create the changes that make most sense. And so what you see in this picture here is they set up a photo booth for an annual event that they were able to create at their school called Kale Yeah, where there's a few days throughout the week where the variety of different activities are happening around campus to promote healthy eating. And specifically, they do stuff with kale, and this the cafeteria puts it on the menu for the week. Next. 2 more short testimonials. The first student says that being a part of this internship is a pleasure because every single time I love it and learn about myself and my community. The thing is that I'm having the chance to know something I didn't know before. And then another youth says there are many negative influences which affect the health of the community. It'll be helpful to make different signs to post around parks and encourage healthy behaviors. Next. So another program that we operate is our EAT Summit every year, which is an annual youth-led community building event for all Project EAT interns and families. And this is really a youth-organized and led event. They do everything from selecting the date and the location, creating the flyers, conducting the outreach, and building the program and soliciting workshop proposals from their peers at different schools. We've tried a number of different ways of organizing it and have landed the past few years on each of our groups that we work directly with, and these are usually school-based groups, selecting 1 or 2 leaders to participate in the organizing committee. As many of you who work with young adults know, the biggest challenge here is just figuring out how and when to meet. Getting 17 youth from around the county to one place at the same time is not always easy, and so we've tried a number of different ways. And we've been doing video conferencing. So next, please. These are just some pictures of Eat Summits in the past. Again, youth create the menu and they're preparing the food and leading the activities throughout the day. Next. So just to outline a few key strategies that I think are really important in working with young people. So first, team building. When you are recruiting and hiring and training a group of young people, it's really important for them to feel committed and engaged with one another, to find a common ground, have them set agreements, and learn how to communicate with each other and rely on each other's strengths. This is, a real world life skill that time and time again we find that students speak about as being really valuable for them, and that as an adult ally, I notice that when I don't spend enough time on that phase, it comes up later in ways that the team just isn't as strong. Next, around leadership and ownership. As Mary Beth spoke about, there really is the spectrum of youth development to youth empowerment, where students need to feel that this is something that they have autonomy and leadership in, and providing them with the skills. I always say, like, heavy upfront on the adult ally facilitation and training, and then I just continue to sit back. And I say, when I have a really smooth and successful team, I kind of just sit in the corner with my phone. Not really, but they are making the decisions, and they are running the meetings and handling all of those logistics, and with no problem. Next, relevance to their lives now and in the future. When adults are picking the topics or making the decisions, it's not relevant for youth. They have a different perspective, and part of our job is to really honor and elevate that perspective and give credence to it. And so not only addressing issues that are important to them that they pick, but also giving them the skills that they are transferable to their lives and their future. A meaningful work experience. We pay all of our interns. They're actually employees of the Alameda County Office of Education, despite the fact that that is just an amazing pile of paperwork that students have to fill out. It does really lend legitimacy to their role in how they serve their community. Being a strong adult ally is just essential, and I feel like it's important to note the difference really between ally and advocate. An advocate is somebody who speaks up for change for something that they care about. An ally is really there to speak up for people who cannot speak for themselves. And so I really find my role to be at times when youth are attempting to speak to power and or overcome institutional barriers, and I come in with my big adult guns to help provide them the space to do that. And then the last thing is just exposure to new ideas and behaviors in a safe and brave space. We encourage young people to tap into that creativity that is innate in them and try on new things, and providing that space that they feel safe to do that. And at the same time, pushing the boundaries a little bit, allowing them to bring up these issues that are important to them. Next. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. And last but not least, we have Marissa. She is from Vermont Junior Iron Chef. Marissa, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to start by thanking the National Farm to School Network for having me on today. As Hannah said, my name is Marissa Watson. I'm the School Food Programs Coordinator for Vermont Feed, which I'll explain what that is in a minute. And Vermont Feed helps orchestrate, or I should say we do orchestrate, the Junior Iron Chef Vermont competition. So if we could go to the next slide, I'll get into what that means. Junior Iron Chef, we're a statewide culinary competition. And we use this competition to challenge teams of middle and high school students to understand how they can affect change in the food system by creating healthy local dishes that inspire school meal programs. What that means exactly is that we get about 200 kids together one day out of the year, and that one day is the culmination of their practice over, it's typically a semester. They start in the fall, and then we have the competition in March. And so the March competition date is a culmination of their work over the school year up until that point of a recipe that allows them to work together as a team, and also shows them that they can get involved in the food system either through their cafeteria or through their farmer or through nutrition education, and inspire school meal programs. That just means that we don't require them to use recipes that could go back into a school meal program and stick to the USDA nutrition guidelines. However, we have had recipes come out of the competition that can then be connected back to the cafeteria. Again, just trying to make sure we're making as many connections as possible. So our mission with Junior Iron Chef is to empower Vermont students to develop healthy eating habits through the use of whole local foods. We try and stay away from the word healthy because there's some shame connotation in there. And so a lot of times when we talk about the foods that kids are creating, we're talking about whole or scratch cooked. And then, as I said, Junior Iron Chef is a program of the VT Food Education Every Day, which is what Vermont Feed stands for. VT Feed is not a 501c3, but a combination of two 501c3s, which are the Northeast Organic Farming Association and Shelburne Farms. So I think, as in many farm to school, anyone who's doing any farm to school programming, it's always a collaborative effort. And I would just like to say, in comparison with the other presenters, I think what we're doing with Junior Iron Chef is a little bit different, because we create the space that allows kids to come together. So typically my job as the co-coordinator of the event is to work with the parents and teachers and coaches that are then going and working with the students directly. So I try and provide technical assistance there. Next slide. Vermont Feed, I don't know if that loaded correctly. I'll read it to you though. Vermont Feed, our mission is to raise awareness about healthy food, good nutrition, and the role of Vermont farms and farmers in helping sustain a healthy community. And we have three ways that we do this. First, we help to grow robust farm to school programs. We act as a catalyst for rebuilding healthy food systems, and we cultivate links between classrooms, cafeterias, communities, and local farms. So Junior Iron Chef is just one way that we embed ourselves within schools, cafeterias, and communities to help build connections. A lot of what I do personally is spend time on the road, just going around to have conversations about purchasing local food through cafeterias, and then our counterparts at Shelburne Farms go around and provide curriculum technical assistance to teachers to get teachers to bring nutrition education into the classroom. Next slide. So Junior Iron Chef itself, the first competition was April 11th, 2008, and it began as a collaborative effort between the Burlington School Food Project here in Burlington, Vermont, and Vermont Feed, which is, our office is located just outside of Burlington, Vermont. And in 9 years, we've had nearly 3,000 Vermont students participate. And we have different awards they can win. One is a Lively Local, where they have to choose a local ingredient and provide the recipe for that. We had a rule change this year. We're requiring, for the first time, and we're in our 11th year this year, we're requiring every recipe to have a local ingredient, because we're trying to tie Junior Iron Chef back into Farm to School and just reinforce that connection to make sure that, I mean, not to make sure, but to connect kids to their local communities and local farmers. Next slide. One of the reasons that our organization, Vermont Feed, created Junior Iron Chef is because we recognize that school food change takes many players: students, food service, parents, and the community. And Junior Iron Chef itself involves all of these players to create a vibrant, fun, and wildly popular event. And I guess part of that sentiment is just that we're, again, just holding the space for kids to come participate. Again, it's really the parents, teachers, community members, and coaches that are doing all the heavy lifting. But they're doing this heavy lifting around a really fun event. One of the things we work really hard to avoid is food shaming. So when we talk about food, again, we're really careful about the language that we use and how we engage kids. And so Junior Iron Chef is just it's an excuse really to have a big fun day, to get all the kids together and celebrate all their hard work and what they've been learning throughout the school year around whole scratch cooked food. Next. So as I mentioned, Junior Iron Chef is once a year. Teams, we have teams. Our capacity is 70 teams. We do it in the Champlain Valley Expo in Burlington, which is a big exposition center. And we have about 55 teams that participate. And typically they start practicing their recipes in September. They develop the recipes, they learn the basic cooking skills, and explore new foods like local rutabaga. One of the fun ones here in Vermont is the gill feather turnip, which is our state vegetable. And so it gives them a chance to learn about some of the local foods, especially up here in Vermont. It's a lot of root crops in March. Then once a team chooses a recipe, they practice and fail, and they learn how to fail and come back and do it again. And so even though, you know, as Vermont Feed, we host this one-day event, a lot of the work goes in prior to the one-day event. Next slide. This is just a quote from a Sharon elementary school teacher. I'll let you kind of scroll through that and read it. But a lot of what we see, or a lot of the feedback we've gotten, is that Junior Iron Chef provides another outlet for kids that may not necessarily be stars on the athletic field or straight A students. It allows them to get their hands moving, to engage in a team setting, and to really learn some hard and soft skills. Next slide. This is feedback from a student. I think if you read the last line there, you can see how it's publicity can really be an incentive for kids to participate. A lot of times if a school wins, they go back to their school as champions. And a lot of times we see then the administration acknowledges them, the parents acknowledge them, and it's really like they won a game. It's very exciting, and sometimes they get to be interviewed on TV. It's also a good opportunity for, you know, Farm to School, in the sense that in the State House, we're really well received. After the Junior Iron Chef competition, we do a day in the State House, and the kids come and get to show off their recipe and their awards, and we really take the time to honor those winning teams. Next slide. So these are just some of the soft skills that we've had people come back and say that they've walked away from. And when I say people, what I'm saying is that now that we're in year 11, we really have the opportunity to see how it's affected kids in the long run. So for example, I recently got to interview a chef at a local restaurant here, and I'll just read you a quote from him real quick. He says, "There was a moment of humility in Junior Iron Chef when I didn't win. We lost, but we built the team chemistry and learned some cool recipes." He also said, "Learning to do something wrong isn't bad. Sometimes you win and sometimes you learn." And this man is 23 now, and he, got to work with his team when he was a kid, and it really stuck with him. Another woman that participated in Junior Iron Chef she pursued a degree in nutrition from University of Vermont and actually went back to her high school to work in the cafeteria with their food service because she was so moved by what not only Junior Iron Chef, but again, Junior Iron Chef being the vehicle to learn about nutrition education, healthy eating, local foods, and the larger food system. So we're really starting to see some anecdotal positive influences now. But again, what we primarily do is just hold the space for the kids to come in and participate. Next slide. So that's all, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for presenting. At this time, we have about 8 minutes left. And so for those of you who haven't typed in your questions yet, go ahead and put them in there. And we'll go ahead and start with this first one. It's for everyone. How do you get students excited and engaged? And how are you able to effectively recruit students for your programs? Open to anyone.
I can go first. This is Mary Beth from Youth Empowered Solutions. We've spent a lot of time honing our recruitment strategy. We found that when we approached a variety of schools in one geographic area, that often the school counselors and school administrators reached out to the same, successful students that they had in mind that would be a fit. And so we've switched that approach, and we now set up tables in high schools, and youth staff staff those with adults nearby to help support that effort, especially when it's their first time recruiting. And youth share their experiences, and there are job descriptions, and there are technological ways to submit your information and application online. The other thing that we also found is critical to our success in attracting the kind of youth that stay long-term, close average length of time is over 2.5 years, which for high school students, that's a pretty extensive amount of time. Is that we do group interviews so that we get to help the youth relax and really show us who they are and show them who we are so that they understand what it would mean to join a staff of an organization like this. And so those are two of our strategies. The other thing I think that has always been a draw is the impact or the change that we've been able to contribute to through the policy work that we do. Youth are just naturally oriented to justice, and we try to leverage that to build the excitement and enthusiasm. We just have we have story after story of youth staff that bring so much energy to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other presenters?
Hi, this is Kate. I would echo all of the things Mary Beth said. We use those same strategies in terms of youth recruiting other youth and doing group interviews. The only thing I would add is just we focus on what the benefits to them will be. And usually, again, that's coming from other youth who have participated in the program. So, opportunities to, just in terms of learning new things, new experiences, field trips, being able to take food home to their families. So we really try to highlight some of the opportunities and experiences that they'll get by joining this program and this job, as opposed to, say, working at Domino's. So.
This is Marissa. We don't recruit students directly. A lot of what I do is spend time on the phone with teachers and coaches of junior Iron Chef teams to help them figure out ways to get students involved. I will say that typically, if the school has the capacity to host a junior Iron Chef team, they are overrun with students, and we've actually had to turn teams away from schools. We say that we can do two teams from a middle school and 2 teams from a high school. And so it seems that it's, just to echo a little bit about what Mary Beth and Kate are saying, that once you put that opportunity out to students, they seem to sort of take it and run.
Thank you. Another question we have is, how do your programs create and allocate funding for youth?
So this is Mary Beth. I'm happy to go first again if this flow is working for Kate and Marissa. So at Youth Empowered Solutions, we have grant funding. So we've gone to major foundations within states and nationally. And a major source of revenue for our organization is an earned income strategy we developed in, I want to say it was 2010, with UNC Chapel Hill Keenan Flagler Business School. And what they did was they really tried to look at what organizations were requesting of us in terms of the help to replicate our policy success in other places. And we tried to get very clear about the amount of time that would take. And so organizations contract with us and they pay us through a variety of funding sources to work with them and their youth. And so that has turned out to be a major revenue source, some years in excess of $500,000 in earned income. So those are the 2 ways that we fund our work. And one of the reasons we were so excited to be talking with the Farm to School Network folks is because we are trying to develop a way to scale for organizations that have more of a national focus like your network. And that means that we would hopefully partner and offer mini grants to groups across the country that have an interest in youth empowerment and think that could help them in their farm to school efforts. And those mini grant dollars could be used as stipends to pay the youth and get through some initial work to try and develop other revenue sources to replicate a youth team in your location.
Great, that's really exciting, Mary Beth. This is Kate again. So the majority of our programs are grant funded. As the County Office of Education, there's a number of other state and federal funds that come through the office, but my work with specifically around nutrition and food and wellness has been grant funded. One of the reasons we actually started the Garden Mentor program that I spoke about was because financially it was a lot less expensive than having certificated teachers in 40 elementary schools. And so we looked at a way to kind of shave that budget. And so paying young people even a higher than minimum wage rate. And I didn't mention this, but they do get increasingly more money every semester based on their length of participation. So currently some of our funds will be coming through district and state initiatives that we're doing capacity building and training for, but the majority of it has been grant funded, and that can be very challenging.
This is Marissa. So while our two organizations, NOFA Vermont and Shelburne Farms, are grant funded, for the Junior Iron Chef competition, we fundraise. We have a fundraising goal of about $25,000, and we have generous partners at Shelburne Farms that put on three fundraising events for us this year, Farm to Ballet and Vermont Mozart Festival. And then we also solicit some of our long-standing sponsors to donate. Partners include Blue Cross and Blue Shield, who have been very generous in the past. And so we're very fortunate to our sponsors. We do charge a registration fee for each team. It's $130 for early bird and $150 for regular registration, whereas the true cost of the team to participate is about $500. So we do try and keep that registration fee down so everyone can participate. And we also are excited to offer a few scholarships this year, thanks again to our sponsors from last year.
Wonderful, thank you. We are 1 minute over time, and so I would like to thank everyone who attended, and thank you to the presenters for taking some time out of your days to help all of us understand a little bit more about how to get involved with youth. With that said, I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.